Hey everybody, what's going on? Jordan here with Pain Leather and Tool. This video is somewhat in response to a post that I made on Instagram. I posted an excerpt, a picture if you will, from this book here. So this is The Art of Hand Sewing Leather by Stohlman. A lot of you people probably know about this. And that's fine. Evidently, there's a lot of people that don't know about this book and some of the stuff that's in there. The specific thing that I posted, let's see, was this picture right here. So this is a do not. The cool thing about Al is during his books, he posts tutorials, and so he's going through how to do a belt. He puts in these little special notes, and I really like looking at some of them because they're super helpful tips. But I posted something. I posted a picture of this right here, and it says, "Do not sew across straps. This weakens the leather much like a perforated stamp." And so I posted that up and had quite a few people message me saying, "Man, thanks, I didn't even know about that, or I had never heard that before. It's nice that somebody is sharing this knowledge." Now, to back up a little bit, I learned about this just through my apprenticeship. That was one of the first things that I was taught, is you never sew across a strap. Anyway, it seems probably a little intuitive to me. That's simply because I've been doing it for a while and have known this for quite some time. But I can certainly see how it might not be something that somebody is, that's obvious to somebody if they weren't taught that or if they didn't read it in a book or something like that. So anyway, just to kind of give you a visual of what we're talking about. So let's just say that this is a leather strap, okay? And I'm using paper just to basically speed up the process. Over time, let's say that this is a belt, and it's sewn right there. Like for example, this is a belt that's unfinished for me. So this thing will be folded over the buckle, and then it's going to be sewn. Now, what it was saying in the book is you don't want to sew straight across right here, because what that does is it creates a perforation just like this. And so over time, that gets moved back and forth and weakened just like this paper would, and eventually it's going to come apart just like a stamp would tear, or like you're pulling a piece of notebook paper out of a notepad, right? So the questions that I was given was, well, okay, if you can't sew straight across a strap, how do you attach something? How do you attach a strap and make it strong? Well, there's a couple different ways. What I did was make some visuals here. These are just some scrap leather, oversized, bigger than probably a normal strap that you would make. But what I did was just kind of draw some things on them. So what we're talking about here is this is the no-no. All right. So let's say that this is a belt, and you're folding this over. Maybe there's your slot for your buckle tongue is right there. You don't want to make this stitch across here, okay? And I see it done a lot. It's not something that's catastrophic. It's if you have a belt like this, it's probably going to last a while. It's just not going to last as long as it could. Okay, so that's basically the gist of all this. Now, this knowledge came from like harness making, okay? So like if you had a trace, which is what's bearing the majority of the forces that the horse is imparting on, the carriage or the plow or whatever, and so you had a lot of forces like this, obviously you can see how eventually that would weaken those holes right there. It's basically like a stamp's perforated, and eventually it's going to tear. All right, so there's a couple ways to avoid that. The bottom line is you never want to sew across a strap if you can help it. There are some exceptions to this. So like if this strap was sewn flat onto a larger piece, right? And this was completely stitched down to a backer, This was completely stitched down. Having this stitched across right there isn't really a deal breaker because there's really not any forces. This isn't going to be bending, and there's not any forces that are going to pull this out because it would have to pull these out as well, okay? But there's several different ways to accomplish it. So this is one example. So unlike a belt, let's say you had your buckle tongue slot right there. One thing you could do, and this is common, you see this, and these are all going to be common things that you do see throughout the leather world. A lot of people know these tricks, and you might see them and you just don't even know what they're doing, why they're doing it. You don't really give it much thought. Maybe you think that it's just decorative, but it's really not. So this is one thing that you can do. You can do this little V shape. Some people will give it more arch. You've probably seen this, which is this little V shape or M shape, if you will, with a continued loop. So you see that. A lot of people call that like a spaghetti western style. The other thing you can do is there's nothing saying that you have to stitch all the way across. A lot of people like to do it because they want to use one continuous piece of thread, but there's nothing wrong if you're doing a belt to do it like this right here. I mean, there's nothing wrong with stitching up and simply back stitching. I made these a little darker so you can see that's where the thread would be doubled up. So there's nothing wrong with going up, stopping, back stitching 2 or 3 slots, or even 1, but 2 is usually the minimum. 3 is probably ideal. There's nothing wrong with doing that, okay? So those are just some different options that you have. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, maybe that's so this was kind of, the picture in the Stohlman book was based around a belt. And I've been kind of folding these over to kind of show you, you know, so, you know, that's how it would be if you were stitching a belt. Maybe this is where this comes into play most often, but you could certainly use it for a lot of different scenarios. So here's a different one. So this is one where I was stitching this strap onto this bag, and I didn't want to go straight across right there because there's a lot of tension on this strap right here. When it's in the buckle, the bag's weighted down, I'm picking up on the handle. This is going to be pulling against the buckle, right? So if this was stitched straight across, you're going to have a perforation right there that eventually is going to get torn and it's just going to come off. I guarantee it. Now, it might not be super quick, but let's say it took 5 years, maybe, you know, this would get me double the life, 10 years or 15 or 20 or whatever. I don't expect this to ever tear out. Here's an example. So you saw the paper that I tore apart before. This is an example of perforated paper, but at an angle, right? So imagine that, you know, there's a stitch all the way up, you know, all the way around like an M shape, right? This right here, number one, if it's getting folded or there's a lot of forces like this, these lines going at a diagonal, so they really doesn't weaken, you know, it's never getting bent this way along the perforation, if you want to use that term. It's always getting bent this way, so it really never weakens. You know, the other piece, was getting weakened this way constantly, and eventually, you know, that just causes a weak point. So this one, I mean, you can see, I mean, fold it, do whatever. I mean, this is a lot harder to tear. I mean, I don't even know how hard I would have to pull. I'm pulling as hard as I can, and it's not tearing. The other one tore really, really easy. So, you know, there are some advantages to taking just a little bit of extra time, you know, in doing this. So this is basically exactly what I did right here. And that's exactly what I did right there. So you can kind of see, and you can go straight, you could go curved, it really doesn't matter. You know, the moral of the story is never stitch straight across a strap. There might be some times where it's necessary. You know, if you're making pretty complicated pieces, bags, that sort of thing, you might have a time when it's something that you have to do and you just don't have another choice. That's fine. You know, the general rule is to never do it. I realize that there's always exceptions to these rules. But anyway, the Stohlman book is great. If you don't have a copy of this, I suggest picking one up, especially if you're into hand sewing. There's a lot of these techniques, though, that are going to be applicable for machine stitching as well. So it's not something that that you just need to you know, take heed if you're hand stitching. It's certainly applicable machine stitching, and there's just a lot of really cool tips in here. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you should probably do that. Instagram handle is Paine Leather and Tool, PAYNELEATHERANDTOOL, just like the channel name. And I'm going to be doing a giveaway of this book right here. So probably in the next couple posts, over the next day or two. So anyway, if you guys do go on there and follow me, you can get in on that giveaway. I'm coming up on 2,500 followers, so I wanted to do that. But this video is basically just to address some of the questions that I had when I posted that picture the other day. I had taken a picture of it because I had just been thumbing through this looking for something else. I can't remember what I was looking for, but I was thumbing through there and saw that picture and said, you know what? That might be applicable to somebody. I see a lot of people who do stitch across straps. And so anyway, took a picture of it, posted it up while I was on Thanksgiving vacation, if you will. And yeah, got some questions about it. Had quite a few people post saying that they, you know, hey, that's good info. Had some people message me asking some questions. And I said, you know what, I'm just going to do a quick little video and talk about it real quick. So hopefully, we're looking at about coming up on 12 minutes. Hopefully 12 minutes isn't too long for a somewhat boring topic, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight. And I'm sure that there's more ways to do this than this. In fact, I know a couple other ways. These were just sort of the simple versions to get you thinking about not stitching across. So this is a big fat no. This is okay, you know. This is okay. And then if you want to be a little fancier, this is okay too. But don't stitch across them if you can help it. I know there's, like I said, there's exceptions. But yeah, thanks for checking out the video. Hopefully this was useful, maybe a little knowledge drop. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Definitely go give my Instagram page a follow. I post up a lot of content there. Most of my content is posted there, my day-to-day goings on, the stuff that I'm making sort of on a daily basis. And so it's a good way to kind of keep up with things. Also have Facebook, so you can find me on there as well. And of course here on the YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed, please do that. Like this video if it was helpful, if you got something out of it. And if you have any suggestions for anything else, please let me know in the comments. Any questions, concerns, criticism, whatever, it's all good. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, and we will see you next time.